That fall, one girl's father died. The family was very poor, the mother never worked before and actually did not know how and where to work. So they had to sell their small house in the city and move to the grandmother's old cabin in the woods. Grandma had been gone for 2 years already, and no one lived in the house since that moment. But it was quite clean and neat there, thanks to a neighbour woman, the grandmother's best friend that lived not far from there and took care of the house for these 2 years. The girl and her mother began to live there. The school was very far from the house. The family did not have a car, and the mother transferred the girl to homeschooling. The mum and her daughter stayed at home all day, only rarely going to the store. The girl's mum was pregnant. Her belly was growing larger than usual. The wait for the baby dragged on as if it would never end. Once in the winter, the mother left for the grocery shopping and disappeared. She was gone for almost a week. For the girl, that time was full of challenges. The house was scary and lonely. The windows were shrouded in darkness. The electricity went out periodically, and drifts of snow rose all the way to the windows. Food was running low, but a neighbour lady helped her with some food and groceries. One late afternoon or night, someone knocked on the door, and the girl heard her mother's voice. She was pale, with dark circles under her eyes, exhausted and cold. In her arms was a baby wrapped in tattered material, perhaps even some dog skin. The girl hurriedly closed the door, put the baby on the table, and began to undress her mother, who was chilled to the bone. Lighting a fire in the iron stove that had been their source of warmth on cold evenings, she sat the mother in an old chair and went to look at the newborn. She unwrapped it around slowly, and there was such a baby that it was immediately clear that it was not a newborn. There was another girl, about 3 or 4 years old. The girl's face was small and angry, and there were no arms or legs. "Oh, Mummy, who's that?" the girl asked, and the mother said, "All babies are ugly at first. When your sister grows up, she'll be fine. Give me that." So she took the baby in her arms and started breastfeeding. And that little girl sucked her breast like nothing had happened and looked at the first girl slyly and meanly. And their names were Stacy and Oda. Oda being the one with no arms and no legs. And Oda was already running and jumping, crawling very fast on her belly. She was jumping on it, and she was able, like a caterpillar, to put herself upright and with her teeth, for example, to grab something from the table or bed and pull it on herself. There was no escape from her. She knocked things over and chewed them up and spoiled them, and Mommy told Stacy to clean up after her because Stacy was the oldest, and because Mommy was sick all the time and even slept strangely, with her eyes open as if she were fainting. Stacy cooked her own food and ate separately from Mommy because Mommy had some kind of diet for breastfeeding. Life got really nasty. If Stacy didn't eat or clean up after the naughty Oda, Mama would scold her and send her out to the yard for firewood or to do homework, and Stacy would spend all day and all evening solving problems and writing exercises and learning algebra so that she could retell everything without stuttering. Mama did almost nothing, feeding Oda or resting between feedings, because a nursing woman is very tired. Stacy did all the housework, from cooking to cleaning. She also had to wash her baby sister, while Oda wriggled and laughed nastily. But Stacy put up with it all for her mum's sake. It had been a month or 2. The winter was only getting colder, with snowdrifts all around, and the light bulbs that hung in the rooms without chandeliers kept blinking and were very dim. Stacy began to notice someone coming up to her at night and breathing over her face. At first she thought it was her mom, like she used to do, looking to see if she was sleeping well and if the blanket had slipped. But then she looked up through her eyelashes, and it was Oda standing by the bed, looking at her, smiling so big that Stacy's heart sank into her heels. Then Oda noticed Stacy watching and said in a nasty voice, "Who told you to look when you shouldn't? Now you're gonna make me bite your fingers off. 1 finger a night, and then I'm gonna eat your hands. And that's how I'm gonna grow my own hands." And she bit off Stacy's little finger, and it bled. Stacy was in a daze at first, but the pain made her jump up and scream. Her mom was still asleep and didn't even hear, and Oda was laughing and bouncing around. Stacy became very scared. She felt completely helpless. She realized that no one would come to her rescue. "Okay," said Stacy. "I can't do anything with it anyway." Overcoming her pain and fear, she lay down as if to sleep. And the next morning, Oda pooped again, and Mommy told Stacy to wash her. It was good that there was still wood in the house, because it was impossible to reach the woodpile because of snowdrifts. The water supply was also running low, so Stacy drew water directly from the snow for her bath, scooped it up with a bucket, and heated it by the fireplace. The wound from the bitten-off finger hurt a lot, but Stacy didn't say anything to her mother. She took Oda and began to bathe her in the baby bathtub they had found in the attic. Oda was wriggling and giggling as usual, but Stacy was overcome by a wave of intense hatred and despair, and her hands began to push Oda under the water. Then Oda struggled terribly, bit Stacy's hands, but Stacy did not remove her hands. And only when Oda froze, Stacy took her in her arms and carried her to her mother's room and her on the table. But Mom sat still in the old chair the whole time, staring into the fireplace, and didn't even seem to notice anything. Stacy felt her arms and legs suddenly weaken, her eyes darken, and she passed out. A day and a night passed. There was a heavy snowstorm outside the window, and overnight the house was snowed in so much that the neighbor lady was frightened the next morning and called the rescue team. The rescuers, because of the heavy snowfall and blocked roads, could arrive only at lunchtime. When they dug up the cabin, they found a weakened girl with bitten hands, a dead, already mummified woman sitting in the old chair, and a wooden doll without arms and legs on the table. After treatment at the hospital, Stacy was sent to a deaf-mute orphanage. She was actually mute and spoke to her mum with her hands.